This is Mike Lingle from Rocket Pro Forma, and today we're going to talk about revenue per employee. And this is one of my favorite metrics. I use it in my financial dashboard. It allows us to sanity check our startup financial projections. So one of the questions I get asked, I feel like I'm pulling numbers out of thin air. What number should I put in here? How do I confidently pitch this to investors? This helps because once we have some numbers in there, we can check to make sure they make sense. This concept of revenue per employee also is going to give us a new superpower that's going to tell us how many employees we should hire each year, which is cool, right? Maybe we didn't know how many employees to hire each year as we were growing. So the formula is total annual revenue divided by the number of employees at the end of the year. And so really what we're talking about is the average revenue per employee per year, but that's a mouthful, so we're just going to say revenue per employee for the most part. This is inaccurate, because really we should divide the total annual revenue by the average number of employees instead of the number of employees at the end of the year. But it's okay, A, because it's a little hard to figure out the average, and B, so we can compare it to public companies. So with public companies, we really only know the number of employees at the end of the year and the total annual revenue. So one of the benefits of looking at public companies, and let's look at some now, we can start to look at their average revenue per employee per year, and we can figure out where we fit in the landscape, right? So you can see that retail has less revenue per employee, and as you move into tech, you get more revenue per employee, and Apple, of course, is the exception. They're really good at having highly profitable retail. Anyway, what we're going to talk about is what's realistic for us, right? This is our startup. These are our startup financial projections. What do we want to make realistic? And what I see a lot of the time is people coming up with these plans that position them with way more revenue per employee than Apple. It's possible. I'm not saying you can't do it. I have some gray hair, and I've seen exactly 2 entrepreneurs pull this off in my career. They both have very nice houses and have done really well for themselves, so definitely possible. I encourage you to do it. But why don't we try to dial it in a little bit more so that we're responsible in our planning, and then if we outperform, that's great. So what I see in my work, I recommend 200,000 to 600,000 annual revenue employee by year 3. Now, again, you can use your own judgment here, but this is the range that I recommend. So here's the formula, and let's look at year 1. We're going to take the revenue, so this is in thousands, so it's $630,000. We have 6 people at the end of the year, so we're going to divide 630,000 by 6 and get $105,000 of average revenue per employee per year. And that is below our $200,000 threshold, but it's okay to be low at first because we're inefficient, right? We're starting the business. Also, if we're raising money, that's part of what we're spending the money for, is to hire more people than we could otherwise afford. So 105,000, totally fine. Now let's look at year 2. We 10x'd, 11x'd the revenue, added 1 person, and now we're pushing $1 million, $977,000 in average revenue per employee per year. That's starting to get high, right? We're above our 600,000 ceiling, recommended ceiling. And then in year 3, we double revenue, only add 1 person, and now we're at 1.5, 1.6 million in revenue per employee. So those numbers start to be a little high, both for investors, but also for ourselves and for the employees we're hiring, right? If we're hiring people, we want to make sure we're doing this responsibly and that we can actually afford them and we're not hiring more people than we can afford, right? But now what's super cool is now we know how many people to hire each year. So what do I mean by that? So let's look, right? We have these numbers of revenue per employee that seem high, but what if we make them realistic? What if we force them to be in our range? What if we say in year 2, we're going to do $300,000 of revenue per employee? So let's do the math. Here's our revenue for year 2, $6.8 million. We're going to divide it by the $300,000 revenue per employee target, and that gives us 22.8 employees. Now, we can't hire 0.8 of a person, so we're just going to round up to 23. So if we take 6.84 million and divide it by 23 people instead of 7 people, we're right below that $300,000 revenue per employee target. So now we know we should hire about 23 people in year 2, which is information we didn't used to have. So we can do the same thing for year 3. What if we say we get even more efficient and we're going to do $400,000 in revenue in year 3? So we take our revenue for year three, 12.588 million, divide it by the $400,000 average revenue per employee target, and that gives us 31.5 employees. Again, you can't hire half a person, but so we're going to round up to 32, and that gives us just below $400,000 in revenue per employee. So now you can see this really nice progression. We've got the right number of people here. I provide a free hiring plan tool, and it's also part of my Rocket Proforma template. So you can quickly go and sketch this out and hire the right amount of people. And then we can go confidently hire people based on our plan and confidently present to investors. So again, I recommend $200,000 to $600,000 average revenue per employee by year three. You can be inefficient at first. Check out rocketproforma.com resources. I have a lot of free stuff up there, including the financial canvas that you can plug into your own spreadsheet or presentation, and also the free hiring plan, and then the paid version of Rocket Proforma that includes all of this stuff built in. Again, this is Mike Lingle at Rocket Proforma. Post your questions in the chat. I hope this helps, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.